Well, hello and welcome to Honest Conversation. I'm excited for our guest today, Belinda Rosenblum. Belinda is a multi-talented woman, but a CPA, strategist, wealth coach, creator of Cash Flow CEO, and the author of, and I love this book's title, Self-Worth to Net Worth, 12 Keys to Creating Wealth Inside and Out. So powerful. Belinda, thank you for joining us today.
I'm so excited to be here. I think there's so much that's happening right now. And the more that we can get into action about it and feel like there are things that we can do and, create some hope, give people a path, the better off we'll be to have our businesses really persevere, and for us as business owners to realize, wait a second, it's so easy to get sucked into the fear, but I love this quote by Joe Dispenza. He says that fear is essentially the absence of love, right? So if we can find a way to come together, bring our community together, create action takers, then we can add love onto fear and then our fear dissipates. So there's so much possibility for us.
So good. I love that. What a great way to start this conversation. Before we dig right into all these actionable items that we can control, tell us just a little bit more about you and really what lit your fire to become a CPA and then become a coach of women entrepreneurs.
Awesome. So it's kind of been an interesting journey. I won't go into all of it because that could be our next 20 minutes. And if you're here live with us, please say hi and let us know that you're watching. Or if you're watching the replay, then please just let us know that too. We'll both check back on comments, I'm sure. So I started this business, ironically, 13 years ago, just before the recession. And everyone was so skeptical when I was starting the business because I just come off of a big corporate career. I actually went through a year and a half of Eat, Pray, Love before it was a hit book and movie. And I did India and I did Israel and I did Costa Rica and volunteered and all these things to figure out what the heck I was going to do. And then I decided to start the business. And everyone was so skeptical because they're like, no one wants to talk about money. Right? Like this was when everything was flying, was going great, and no one wanted to talk about financial stress or what wasn't working or what they could do better. But I just knew in my heart, like something's going to be happening soon. And I wanted people to be prepared to handle the stress that we live with money all the time. And the uncertainty that we kind of get used to, right? When we just spend and we don't really know what's happening. And it's like this low grade, like ticker almost. Like I'm watching the ticker go by and that's kind of what it's reminding me of, right? It's like we just generally don't understand where our money goes. It's a big mystery. And I was like, well, the more that we can get clear on where it's going, the more that we can put things in our control that are within our control, right? Because it's not like there's some little gremlin who's spending our money. Like it's us, right? Sometimes it feels like when you look at your credit card statement, you're like, wait a second. Yeah. But no, it's us. And so I started this back right at the end of 2007. And then I was talking about this so much so that when the federal bailout happened and the 5:00 news in Boston called me, and I was literally on the news that night talking about what can people do? How do they handle their stress, right? And so that's exactly how I've been feeling in the last few months leading up to this. And so from 2008, I did a lot in personal finance. We have a robust series of Making Money Easy and the Money Makers Academy and a lot of courses and programs to support people to make more money, to spend it better, and to stop stressing about it. And then just January of 2019, I really made a decision. I said, I feel like we've taken where I want the personal finance side to go. We have all of the resources for people. Now let's help business owners, because what's happening is that business owners are now in their own big mystery, and as business owners, there's a whole new set of challenges. It's like, not only do we not learn money for our personal lives, we definitely don't learn money for our businesses. And it has a whole different level of complexity. Right? It's like different accounts, profit and loss statement. We have to own our value because no one tells us that we didn't realize how well we had it in corporate when magically every 2 weeks we just got paid. It was amazing. And then now we run our own businesses, and it's essentially like every dollar that we bring in, we've had to ask for, right?
Mhm.
And so it's a totally different world. And so I wanted to really help business owners to figure out what could they do? How could they feel more in control? How could they have a plan so that they had the right revenue streams for moving forward, so that they had the right spending, so that they could hire teams, so they could really move from this cash strapped solopreneur doing all the things, not experiencing the freedom that we started the business for in the first place, to then transfer that and instead step up as the CEO, what I've affectionately termed the cash flow CEO, because you're the one in charge of your business and of the cash flow of your business.
Yeah, we are.
We are, I
Be
know,
that
but
good or bad.
right. We don't realize it. And I think that it's that, especially right now, I've just heard so much uncertainty from people. Like, should I be putting out offers? Should I be
Mhm.
asking for people to buy things, or people not buying things? And I want to give people a whole new context for this, right?
Mhm.
So we're all stuck in our houses, right? We're all social distancing and we're doing the things that we need to do. Hopefully, please do it to support our global health. Okay. And you have a very captive audience of people at home who need to learn, want something to do with their kids, like want to
Mhm.
be in better shape at the end, hopefully not like holding on by a thread, and I feel like there's such an opportunity here. And what I want all of you for all of our business owners out there, and even those who are in corporate actually too, to think about how can you become as irresistible as toilet paper feels
Oh,
right now. Okay. Because, right, that's the thing that's clearing off the shelves. And if you can be that way, if you're in a job, how can you still be so helpful, needed, right? As irresistible to it,
yeah.
so that if there's layoffs, you're not the one that's laid off. If you run your own business, how can you identify the problem that people have right now and find a way to solve it so that when all of this goes away, and it will at some point, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, they will remember you. They will remember that you took a stand, that you were there to support them in this time of need, right?
Yes,
So how can
absolutely.
you look at what you're offering and make sure that what you're offering aligns with where people are right now, aligns with the problems that they're having, and supports them to get into action?
Yeah. And I think that that is the key right there, because we as business owners are kind of looking at this and going, all right, well, we want to be sensitive and it's easy to kind of pull back. But that is just like ghosting your people. You need to be there and be supporting, like you are saying, and serving them well and doing that maybe in different ways to show your value.
Totally, totally. But to not hold back, to not like so many people are kind of afraid, like, oh, I know that people are stressed, or, I want to be sensitive to it. And I feel like what we can do is to be empathetic, but also be of service at the same time, so that
Yeah.
we're meeting the needs that they have now. Right? Like we actually, I mean, full disclosure. So we had a whole launch planned, and we were doing our scalability plan, and it's gotten great feedback in the past. And we were all ready to go with emails and live streams and the whole thing. And Friday, I called an audible. If you know what an audible is in sports terms, it's like where you make a last minute play decision. And I postponed it for a couple of days, and I said, it just doesn't feel right. Like people aren't thinking about growing and scaling their business right now. They're thinking about surviving and thriving.
Mhm.
So I just are surviving first off, right? And then they
Yeah.
want to say, well, people are saying I can thrive. Like, what could that look like for me? How do I pivot? How do I add the online element? Like, what can I do right now? So that's what even brought on next week's series on um, really, how do you lead your business? How do we all step up as the leaders, and how do you lead your business through this crisis confidently, right? Not like
Mhm.
cowering, but courageous and confidently. So
Yeah.
we made the pivot, and part of what I'm going to be doing next week is teaching Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but also doing a lot of live coaching to help business owners, whether they're brick and mortar, their service, they're already online, like how do they pivot and really rise or support what's happening right now so they can be the most of service to their audiences and their clients alike.
Absolutely. And that's going to be happening within your Facebook group. Is that correct?
So you can certainly join our Facebook group. That is where the community is coming. And as there's like new news posting, like I'm not sure if you guys saw it today, but the IRS pushed the April 15th deadline to July 15th. So as breaking news comes out, we're posting it, we're posting links, like so to really keep you informed of how do you lead your business through this. And then you can join. I don't know, Rebecca, if you have a link that you'd like to share in the comments here, but our general link is ownyourmoney.com/crisis. But Rebecca can also share a link directly with you as well because she's helping us spread the word. So yes, you can do that. And then either way, join us inside the group, leading your business through a crisis. It's a pop-up group.
Definitely.
We're doing it.
I'll post links to both of those in the comments when we get done here.
Awesome.
Tell me just a little bit about your book real quick, because I love to read and I'll be hopping off and purchasing that.
Oh, awesome.
Tell us just a little bit about it.
It was just out of camera view, but yep. Okay, sure. I'm happy to chat about it. This one?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, go for it. And what's your question? What's your thought?
Well, I guess self-worth to net worth, that really resonates with me because I feel like sometimes our confidence level dictates our checkbook balance. And so really kind of honing in on our value and that we are enough exactly where we are and how that translates into finances. Is that what the book is about?
Yeah. So essentially, yes. I mean, the whole point of it is really getting that it's not what's on the outside that defines us. It's on the inside that then helps us to create what's outside. And what's so funny is like we published this in 2012 and I wrote it with a psychotherapist so that I would really learn more about our psychology behind money. Right? What really drives us? How are what we learned from our parents or our grandparents or the childhood influences in our lives? How does all that play in? And so now it's like much more popular, to have this conversation and to get that it's the inside world that's happening that's really driving what's outside. And I just to be clear though, I don't say like charge your worth, right? Because I feel like that gives people almost the wrong idea. Like what you are worth as a human being is so much more than what you're going to charge somebody for your services. But it's about first recognizing that you need to believe in yourself above all else. And it's then once you can work through your own stuff, like your own, and like just to give you an example, I actually set it up like with a little index on the side almost, because you can like flip to a chapter. You can be like, oh, claim responsibility. Yeah, I'm not very good at that. I should just start right there, and so it goes like first chapter is be willing to change. Second chapter is claim responsibility. Third is feel your feelings. And so it's not solely a money book, but it's also not solely like a personal development book. It really matches both so that when you're feeling your feelings, I talk a lot about how our feelings often dictate how we spend.
Yeah.
Right. Like there's even a term. I mean, retail therapy is essentially like when you need to feel filled up, you go shopping. And so I just really talk about like what are other alternatives, right? And how do you feel your feelings and find different ways to meet the need that your feelings are having, And so I really like kind of challenge the status quo that we've had to date with how we operate with money. And instead realize that it all starts inside. And then as we're able to grow personally, we can make the changes that we need to from our to really grow our wealth at the same time. And I help people figure out a lot of these foundations, like what is a net worth statement and how do I track my money and how do I understand the relationship between my relationship with money and my wealth. So yeah, it's a good one. It's at selfworthbook.com if you're interested.
I'm going to get it. I'm sure there's no one that's feeling feelings right about now about anything.
So many feelings happening. Yeah. That would be a total understatement. Yeah.
what are a couple actionable items that people can take right now to, feel those feelings, but not necessarily express them in negative ways?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, I think that first and foremost, you have to come to terms with how you're feeling right now.
Mhm.
And I think that it's almost like we're trying not to feel. And that doesn't work either, right? Like especially if you are trying to be public, you don't want to um be feeling the fear and the panic and almost like you're putting icing on a mud cake.
Yeah.
Like if it's crabby underneath and not going to really serve you, that doesn't work because that's the energetic signature. That's what you're putting out there to the world. So first it's about recognizing and being and accepting. I have a great chapter on acceptance in here too. When you do get it, chapter 4, accept what is. That I think that so much of the time we resist, right? And we know what resists persists. So it's like, how do you start to come to terms with this that we're all in a sense of uncertainty, but to remind
Mhm.
yourselves, particularly for your business owners, that as business owners, we need to get comfortable with uncertainty. Like that's
Mhm.
kind of how we live our life. You don't really know where the money is going to come from for sure. And to remind yourself that you can thrive in that kind of environment, whereas a lot of employees maybe can't. And so recognize like you might even have a competitive advantage right now emotionally to be able to support you through this, to be able to support you to figure this out and to realize that yes, there is uncertainty, but it doesn't work. And I have done several Tony Robbins programs and he talks a lot
Mhm.
about, you know, we need to learn how to let go of the need for certainty and instead embrace the uncertainty right now and focus on what we can control, not what we can't control. Because when we do that, then it's just more frustrating, right? And then every time something happens, it's more evidence for why this is hard, why you can't do it. And
Mhm.
instead, we really want you to think, wait a second, what can I do to move forward? Right? What are the things that I can be in charge of? So, I mentioned like was supposed to go do this whole other event next week. And
Mhm.
I was like, if I don't feel like that's relevant, no one is going to come down and be like, you can do that or you can't do that, right? It's up to me to make the decision as the business owner. And so that's how it goes for all of you too, right? It's up to you to decide, like, is that the thing that you want to be doing right now? What are you pulled to do? What are you driven to do? And go and serve in that kind of way. So I think the
Mhm.
first thing is recognizing that it's the action that helps cure the fear, right? So if we want something, it's the love, right? It's like, how do we replace that? And to remind ourselves, there's a great quote by Dr. Robert Schuller. He says, tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Mhm.
Right. So how can you use this almost like a defining moment where I think we're going to look back on this and remember it like we remember 9/11. Like, where were you? What did you do? And look at like when everything hit the fan, right? In March 2020, where were you? What were you doing? How did you pivot? Like, how did you rise to this occasion?
Mhm.
And it's kind of ironic. And somebody was just joking with me, like, did I have a crystal ball? That I actually ran an event just 2 weeks ago on how do you recession proof your business. And
Yeah.
what's so crazy is that I think we're going to look back and we're going to say, like, when did the recession start? Like, when did the tides turn and we headed from this bull market, going up, up, up to the
Mhm.
bear market where things have gone down? It would probably be the week that we launched that event, right? Talk about like manifesting. It's kind of crazy. And and just really getting that like we need to start to take action now. I don't want you to wait until you're like in the total bottom of all of this to start to take actions to move yourself forward. And
Yeah.
especially things like knowing your cash flow. Like, what is your revenue? What are the different streams that have been providing it for you up to this point? Right? What's your spending? How do we want to shift our spending? We're going to talk a lot in more detail next week inside the leading your business through crisis. Yeah.
Yes. And again, I will be posting those links in the comments for everyone that's watching live or on the replay. One of my favorite quotes about action that's on the fridge is, genius is in the idea, impact, however, comes from action. And it's just a
Ooh, I
good
like that.
daily,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Mhm.
a good daily reminder to me that, I am one of those people that I come up with thousands of ideas a day. but that does nothing for me if I'm not putting one foot in front of the other and putting it into action.
Totally. Yeah, it's like potential doesn't do anything for you, right? It's all about the power that gets created when you take the action. That's where the impact comes from. So I love that. Thank you for sharing.
For sure. And I have to say, I have been one of those that has been a head in the sand type person when it comes to finances until the last couple of years. And I'll be very vulnerable and honest and just admit that it's absolutely not something I'm proud of. But about a year and a half ago, I read the book Profit First by Mike.
Oh, I just interviewed Mike, the author of Profit First, Mike McAllowitz.
It's changed my life, Belinda. It was so powerful.
It's right up there too. You can't really
see
it just off the camera.
And just that thought process of, I mean, people always, people always talk about you have to pay yourself first, but that's not what happens. You pay everyone else, and if there's crumbs left, you get the crumbs, maybe.
Right.
So,
right. I know. And there is a better alternative, we promise, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited to go through next week with you and experience that and just continue the relationship. Do you have any other just tips or tidbits that you want to share? I know we need to be wrapping things up fairly soon so you can get on with the rest of your day, but I know there's women on here that just need a little dose of, maybe a little injection of financial savvy that they can take and put into action right now before even Monday and your free program next week.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So good for you, by the way, Rebecca, right? For recognizing like where you weren't being the CEO, like you can be. And oftentimes it's the money side that we feel a lot of shame around, right? Like we're hiding ourselves. We're not bringing our best and full selves. And understandably, like just to let everybody off the hook a little bit here, it's like not only do we not really learn our personal finances, but we really don't learn how to do our business. And so if you just give yourself a little bit of grace around that and say, well, I just need to learn it. Like there's skills, like your love language does not have to be spreadsheets like mine to be able to succeed at this. And so if you cut yourself a little bit of slack there and you're like, wait a second, okay, I'm not bad or wrong, or, it's not like there's anything wrong with me. It's like, I just need to learn a set of skills that I just never learned. And that if you want your business to continue, we need to be able to make your business profitable. It's amazing to me that 60% of businesses lose money or break even. And that's in good times. That's not even what's happening right now, right? And it's just not sustainable. It's like, I don't want you to be a glorified volunteer running an unintentional nonprofit. That is not what we're looking for from you. It's really more about how do you decide right now, right here, you can be like, hey, there was this random Facebook Live I tuned into on a Friday afternoon, and Rebecca and this Belinda person were talking, and I just got in that moment that I haven't been showing up as my best self when it comes to the money in my business. And as soon as you can make that decision, and as soon as you can say, okay, wait a second, it's not okay for me to be clueless when it comes to my money. It's not okay for profit to be an accident in my business. It's a happy accident when it happens, but it's not meant to be an accident like that. I want it to be intentional for you. Right. And so it all starts with really knowing your numbers. So kind of step one here, right? So you go and you look. I actually have a dashboard. Maybe we can post a link to that too. What I call a cash flow CEO dashboard. So you can know and track the most important numbers in your business in just 10 minutes a month. So you can have that. And then really just like recognize that if you can do basic math, like 2 + 2, or if you can like have a calculator, your calculator does not have to be as big as your head like mine is. But, if you have a calculator, like you have a spreadsheet, you can do this, right? And it doesn't have to be so crazy and so hard. But what it does take is it takes you making the decision that you want it to be better. You want to be able to be the person that doesn't hide from her numbers, but actually knows how to use money as a tool.
I think that's actually a really important thing, because for me, it was, for the longest time, I knew it was bad. I just didn't want to know how bad. And so I felt like if I just hid from it, then it was miraculously going to be better.
Right. And ignorance is not bliss. Let me just put this out there when it comes, especially when it comes to our money and our business money. It's not bliss. It's actually really costly. It's really stressful. It's far from bliss. Right. And so stop fooling yourself that you'll be happier that way, because you're not, especially right now. I think of this like, if you have a piece of glass and the glass has a little tiny crack, right? A little tiny like hairline crack. When it gets cold, when it gets pressure applied, boom, it just shatters. And so we have this chance now, though, to like set aside that piece of glass, get a new piece of glass, and be like, okay, what's the business that I want to create in 2020? And that's really what we're going to start to do together, because this is not business as usual. This is business unusual. And you need to figure out how are you going to run your business right now to make that happen. So we need you to know your numbers. We need you to be able to look at your revenue and understand your revenue streams. And I'll talk to you more about that, and really understanding like what are the major sources of your revenue, and being proactive to think about, okay, what are they going to be moving forward? And then looking at your spending, and we're going to start to really dive in to look at, okay, what are the things that you absolutely want to keep? Like we have to have them, right? To keep up our growth, to fund our team, that kind of thing. But then also, what are the things that are kind of nice to have? And then what are the things that you probably should have canceled a long time ago, but since you weren't looking, you didn't even know you were still being charged for that, go to webinar subscription, or like that proof subscription, or like that thing that you're not even using right now. Right. And so I just want you to like put on the big girl panties and put on the CEO hat, and let's get you moving. We can totally do this together.
I can't think of a better way to end this conversation is with just those powerful action steps, Belinda. So thank you so very much for being with us today, and just encouraging us and allowing us to look at things just a little bit different. This is not a hopeless situation. We just need to get out there and put one foot in front of the other. My husband is an old football coach, and he's always doing sports analogies. And he always says, you just gotta keep falling forward, baby. Just keep falling forward.
Exactly. Keep falling forward, and then keep getting yourself up, right? Like you can keep falling. Like we all fall, and we all need to be able to take risks. Like, can I promise you that it's going to work? No. But can I promise you that at least you'll have better information to then take the next step, take the next risk? Absolutely. And like when I had to make the decision of, am I going to run this same event next week that I was planning on, or am I going to totally shift and do something else? It's all a big risk. All of business is really a risk, but it's actually being able to confidently taking the risk, do it calculated, like really thinking through the benefits and how can you best serve your audience. And I think that that's something that we just need to stop to look at right now. It's like, what do our people need, right? And like, remember, like they will appreciate that in these tough times, you were there for them. So that's what we hope for you. And if you need some time, we just one more last thing here. If you need some time to work through your own fears, concerns, be with your families, and give yourself that space, just work out the finance part so that you can, right? Like I don't want you to feel stressed. And I will say the credit card companies are also willing to work with you more if that's what you need right now. But I don't want these things to happen to you. I want you to be proactive to say, if I do start to make less money, what can I do and still be fine? Right? Like how, if you do need to spend time with your kids. Now, every morning we spend at least an hour that I run of school time. We do announcements on this microphone. It's very funny. If you follow me over on at ownyourmoney.com, you will start to see our announcement mornings and, all the things that the kids are doing with their books and their workbooks and all the things. So that needs to happen. Right. And so one of the things we're going to talk about next week is hacks for parents, because now we're home and our kids are home, and people who are in corporate, maybe you feel like you have more time. Well, those of us who were working from home before, the business part hasn't changed. If anything, it's gotten more demanding. And now we have little ones or big ones or however yours are. Mine are 4 and 6. So they're pretty small, but they pack a big punch.
Not only kiddos, but spouses. It's like,
Yes, that's
Right
where
there.
I wrote that in there too, right? It's like your kids, parentheses, and your partner, because a lot of us aren't. So my husband actually came into the business 3 years ago, so we kind of had our own crash course about this. But a lot of people now have their partners at home 24/7. So not only do you have kids, pets, you have partners, and it's like, whoa,
Yeah, absolutely. How funny.
what can we do? How is it going to
Yeah,
look? Like all of that. So there's so much that we can do. And Rebecca and I just really want to empower you to feel like you can be the business owner to get it done. So let's do this.
absolutely. Join us next week, 5 days. It's going to be incredible. Belinda, thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks so much for inviting me on today, Rebecca.
Absolutely.